We started out building a massive rig with quad GPUs, and today we're going to the 100% opposite side of the spectrum. The absolute cheapest build that you would be able to put together that would have dedicated GPUs and be usable in Ollama for your own, basically AI server running in your house, and for around $150 with dedicated GPUs and 8 GB of dedicated VRAM. I hope you're excited. Let's get started. So the card that we're using today is the NVIDIA Quadro K2200. These are about $45, sometimes cheaper, but this does have a 4 GB RAM footprint on it. So you can actually, if you just used one of these and the Dell 7050, this is an Optiplex machine, comes with a i5 6500 quad core and 16 GB of RAM and a 256 GB NVMe. And what's pretty cool about this is it has 2 full-size PCIe slots, so you can easily put these in. Now you're gonna notice these are bus powered, but this is also pretty cool for another reason. This entire setup is incredibly low wattage when it's idling. So for an always-on system in a energy-intense area, you might consider having something that is low wattage as far as your GPUs, and the K2200s are the cheapest ones out there that fit that bill. And so if you're looking for a place to get started, check out the guides that I've got linked here that'll get you all of the software installation tips, tricks, and everything you need to get up and running with a Proxmox LXC Docker container environment. And there is also a website which you can just use the copy button to copy and pasta all this goodness in. And that's a pretty small footprint that you've got on this also. If you look at the size of this, it's actually about 14 inches tall, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 inches deep, and about 6 inches wide. They're very quiet. Very, very quiet. Like you don't hear it quiet. That's actually pretty nice. Living in a data center garage, that's very nice. There are smaller options out there, but the integrated CPUs that come with like a Zima board unfortunately do not have AVX extensions, something that's needed for Llama CPP to run. I do hope to see that fixed in the future, but I will let you know when that happens. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified. That might be an even smaller footprint. And so with one GPU for about 110 to 115, or with 2 GPUs for around 150, this is probably one of the smallest computers that you can put together that has a very low cost that can actually do inference. What is it like? I'm not sure. Let's find out together.
So let's jump in here. Let me catch you up with where I think you should start out. If you're new here, check the channel history. Of course, hit like and subscribe if you're into this kind of stuff. But definitely you can check out the AI home server guide. That's the Mega Quad 3090 build that we put together. Then we have our second build. And I mentioned, I think even in that first video, we're going to have 4 different reference systems here. So next we have kind of a lower end, but still pretty darn good 350 build. That was with the 12 GB version of the 3060, not the 8 GB version, which is the TI. Has really good performance in it. And we played around with some vision models. If you haven't checked that out, that's a really fun one. And if you are looking for how to get set up with all of this software, use the Proxmox GPU Passthrough LXC Container Ultimate Guide. Make sure you check out digitalspaceport.com also, where we've got all of this stuff in really easy to read guide fashions, so you can get up and running with copy paste and start using OpenWEBUI, Ollama, and these models. If at any point in time you're interested in skipping around in any of these different tests that I'm about to run, you can use the chapters below. So I don't know what to expect here, but we're going to find out what kind of performance we can see. We're going to run a couple of different models here. So we of course have our Proxmox cluster up and running here, and Prox 7 is the machine that we're on right now. Like I said, follow along with all those guides. You can find those in the channel history for the complete how to set up Proxmox. And we've got GPU 7-1. So you can see this has got 14.65 gigabytes allocated to the LXC right now. I've got a 512 swap, 4 cores, and 75 gigs. So of course we've got our dockage over here, which has all of the models loaded. It also has our Ollama, OpenWEBUI, Seer, XNG, and Tika. And all those things are shown to you in the very, very easy to go through guide on how you can get up and running really quick with your own complete self-hosted AI system. So we've got our Ollama models that we're going to be using today. MiniCPM, which is a vision model here, and this was pretty recently updated about 2 weeks ago. This does require Ollama 0.3, 0.10. Of course, we're on 0.4 now, so anything modern, make sure you're up to date though. Should be able to run this. One thing that you do want to pay attention to in reading model cards and the descriptions is what, especially with vision models, the image processing capabilities are. So you can see that we've got a limit of 1.8 megapixels, 134 by 134 aspect ratios that are anything, however, are allowed. And if we come over here, we can see some of the other models that we might check out here. So I think we might check out small M2 that may fit in. Llama 3.2 Vision. Unfortunately, that's not going to fit in the VRAM footprint of 8 gigabytes. We saw that with, of course, when we were doing some testing. We were able to run it finally in the 12 gigabyte card, but anything that's an 8 gigabyte card really wasn't able to run it without offloading it. And by the time you get to offloading it, usually your performance hit on that is so significant that you're better off just holding back instead of buying a GPU and just buying the next best GPU at that point. So we're coming over here to our OpenWEBUI. Okay, so I think I have Quinn 2.5 coder loaded there. We're going to go down here to MiniCPM, and we're going to load this one. This is, of course, a 7.6, but that's 5.1 gigabytes of size that it has. It does have a projector, but this should fit, I think, in the VRAM that we have allocated over here. So I'm just going to give it a quick command and see what kind of performance we get here. K2200s are pretty darn old. So I think these are DDR5 class VRAM, not huge bandwidth, if I'm not mistaken on these, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of tokens per second we can get. You can see it spewing up over here. That's fairly slow. Okay, so 7.19 tokens per second. 7.19 tokens per second is definitely pretty slow. Let's go ahead and throw some of the resized images that I've got at it here and ask it, just a couple questions here. What do you see here? So my concern is usually an 8B on a CPU of this age is probably going to be typically, in my opinion, running somewhere around 4, maybe 2 to 4 tokens per second. We're going to check that out here. But like I said, we're exploring the bottom edges of performance today. And indeed, we are exploring the bottom edges of performance. So, okay, it does get this. It does see the black cat laying on a patterned rug, seemingly interacting with pink slippers. Definitely is. Settings appears to be indoors, likely having a home or apartment. Breakdown of visual elements, black cat, feline it actually does have very, very striking green eyes and shiny fur. Pink slippers, yeah, it loves to go to slippers for some reason and lay on top of them, fight them, attack them. It's like a dog. Patterned rug does exist. Wooden flooring, yeah. And even got the furniture legs in the background there, dark colored hardwood furniture legs. And yeah, that's actually a really good description. Right around 7 tokens per second that we hit on that. Okay, so I guess let's throw a couple more things on there and just I'm gonna have it explain the meme, and then we're actually gonna switch gears. I know we're starting out with K2200s, but I want to be flexible here, and I also want to be outlining the horizon of what is the cheapest AI server that could be a dedicated machine that you can just leave on and doesn't have a huge wattage footprint. And right now it's hitting 74 watts. Okay, so I'll take a look here as soon as this is done and we'll get a wattage comparison for what it looks like after it quiets down here. And you can see that also kind of 16 and 30 watts is what we were seeing up there. So using some wattage, but not a tremendous amount. Again, optimizing for a GPU that can single GPU hold as much VRAM as you're intending for your models is ideal. Now, with two 4GB VRAM cards here, there is additional capabilities you just inherently get when you have dedicated LLMs running on dedicated GPUs, even if they are, let's say, suspiciously not super fast here. I've got a theory that we're going to check out in a second to see whether that's true or not. But that is that you can offload onto those dedicated LLMs. Now, if you're running an LLM on a CPU, if you've ever done this, especially on a hypervised system, you're going to block almost all the rest of the IO, and you're going to run into huge pressure on your system. So it's actually a measurement you can take on a system and see how much pressure you're building up, and everything kind of stalls out if you're completely using 100% of your CPU processing, which is what an LLM will do if you run it on a CPU. We're going to do that here in just a second. But so there are additional benefits, but a K2200 here, especially two K2200s at $45 each, that's like $90. I was personally hoping this MiniCPM was going to be closer to 10 tokens per second. I think there would be value there. We're at 7. Again, values in the eye of the beholder. It does appear like it did a very good job describing the cat meme here in the I wake up, I break software. That's what it does here. And any software developer understands that's pretty much the game. So let's try out one thing here really quick. And let's go down here. We're going to set the num GPU to 0. So when we set this to 0, it's basically going to say, don't go to the GPUs. So it should unload out of the GPUs. We should see that reflected over here. Everybody always asks me what this is and what PowerShell script, and it's not a PowerShell script. It's NVTop, and this is Linux that we're running in. Follow along with the guides. You don't want to be doing this in Windows. Windows is a not really awesome, like always on environment for a lot of different reasons, but certainly the type of hardware, software that we're using is really going to get a little bit of an extra bump if you're going the Windows route, or the Linux route. So let's hit refresh here and see what the tokens per second look like outside of. So we're just using CPU and RAM here for doing this, which is a possibility to do, but you're typically going to get some, I'm going to say not super good performance out of it. We'll see how bad it is, but I'm going to guess that it's somewhere between 2 and 5, maybe 4, 2 and 4 tokens per second, maybe 2 and 3. Yeah, 2 and 3. That seems right. And it will take a little bit of time to load it into the memory because you're not using GPU VRAM. You're using now system memory. System memory is going to be slower on DDR4. This is 2400 speed DDR4. So you're looking at like, I don't know, 20 gigabytes, 25 gigabytes a second or something like that is what I vaguely recall, versus a Kepler class DDR5 system. You're probably looking at, well, I'll tell you what, instead of me guessing, let's take a look here. K2200 Tech Power Up, my favorite website. Yeah, you're like 80 gigabytes per second on GDDR5 on that. So let's, and you can see here, this is kind of weird because the architecture is Maxwell. However, the actual K designation is like the generation. So it's a Maxwell chip on it's fairly weird. Let's move up to the actual Maxwells and see what an M2000 looks like. Still DDR5. Okay, so let's move on one more and look at a Pascal and just see. Now, I already did test on this channel, the P2000, very in-depth, so you can go back and check out what that performance looks like. I might even toss one in here, but you've got GDDR5 at 160 bits, so that is 140 gigabytes per second, so that is a much, much faster speed. A lot of what you're going to do with LLMs has to do with your VRAM performance, and the faster your VRAM is, the faster your entire system is. Okay, so this is just CPU. And now if you were doing something else, let's go over here real quick. You can see like this is pumping the system. 97% of the CPUs are being used. So you'd want to start doing things like allocating back away from having 4 CPUs allocated if you had anything else running. So if you wanted to run other LXCs or other VMs, you definitely need to give them some free space here because 98.94% of all the CPUs are being used. So things would get a little bit hectic for you in that system during that time frame. 4.62 tokens per second. So that's actually faster than I thought it was going to be. So Okay, so let's look at the breakdown of the system itself. So we've got 80-ish dollar 7050. Still probably one of the best as far as being able to purchase it for cheap, and also has DDR4, which I think is a kind of, you really want that in a system, but 4.6 tokens per second. Now that's with 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's not that bad. Like, that's not that much slower than a K2200. I think we found, yes, we have found. We're going to call this the bottom. We have found the bottom. Congratulations, everybody. We have found what the bottom of performance looks like. You can get a little bit more performance here, but not a lot. So maybe the K2200 is not a great idea. I'm going to actually go and let's see. Let's go to eBay. All right. Let's look up P2000s. All right. So those are auctions. Let's see what the buy it now price is. Price, shipping, ending. So those are laptop ones, and $107, $108 for one that does have 5 gigabytes of GDDR. So that is something to keep in mind. Let me check one other thing. Let me check the M2000s, because I've got piles of M2000s also. So we'll check out the M2000 performance, and we'll check out the P2000 performance. Much cheaper. Oh, what? You know what? Actually, this is the same price as the K2200, it looks like. So 28, well, $14.75. So about $45 for a M2000 also. Again, you're kind of dealing with, oh, that one's 40. You're kind of dealing with what you would be expecting, in my opinion, for this kind of base level of, like, and you can understand now why Kepler is the cutoff for Ollama to support. You get tangibly almost no additional benefits by going all the way down there. So I'm going to go pop in. I guess I'll start out with popping in 2 M2000s, and we'll just see the M2000s versus the K2200s. My theory is that they're going to perform exactly the same. Drop your theory or your guess in the comments below right now. All right, I got some Quadro M2000s here that we'll toss in. These guys also, essentially, in my opinion, probably going to come out almost exactly the same as the Kepler cards that we just were testing, but we'll give it a shot and see. All right, it's turned into a lab experiment. That was what I was hoping for. All right, here we go. See the exciting things that this channel brings you? This kind of exploration isn't happening elsewhere. Other people have better things to do with their life. You can see the GPU reservations there. I'm looking at about 3.4 and 3.1 gigabytes each. Definitely fast. Is it 7? Maybe. Might be faster than 7. Ooh, I could be wrong. $11 tokens per second. All right. All right. 11 tokens per second. Well, now I'm just really curious. We got to throw the P2000s in. I wasn't expecting that. So the recommendation would be M2000s and not K2200s. I'm going to write that in the description along with the links down below. Now I'm going to go pop in those P2000s. And because you found a very weird YouTuber, I've got P2000s here ready for us to test. The M2000 though, 11 tokens per second actually was what I was kind of hoping to hit, and that actually sets me on a different course about what I think about the Kepler to Maxwell generational jump. Let me know if you've got more details. I'll read the comments below and I'll reply. Okay, now we've got our 2 P2000s in here. Definitely not as cheap as a M2000. Not even close is what I'm going to guess. No. Yeah, 107. So 2 of those at 107. Granted, it's 10 gigabytes of VRAM, but still you're at like 280 tax stuff, 300. I mean, get the extra 2 gigabytes and a really good 3060 12 gigabyte, not TI, and be, I think, much better performance class that is absolutely going to smoke what we see out of the P2000 here also. So should be loaded up. Let's give it a region and check out the speed tokens per second on this as the P2000s. Oh yeah, that's a difference. So I think that we have a huge takeaway for people that are looking for what is budget for an always-on kind of AI machine. And again, let me say, if you have not taken a chance, go back and watch what I said just the other day in the last video. Much, much faster. That would be absolutely smoked by a 3060 12 gigabyte, to be honest with you, though. But what I said the other day is absolutely true. You want a system that can be an always-on system. Takeaways on this. Conclusions. Overall, the system itself is the 7050, I think the cheapest desktop that has the like mid tower size. So you don't have to get like a little half height card. Half height cards, 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte cards, wastes. Don't bother with it. If you can fit everything in VRAM, that's great. If you can fit everything in VRAM and get a performance benefit of speed up, that's super great. So you see almost 20 tokens per second here on the two P2000s. Again, that is 10 gigabytes essentially of VRAM that you would have on those. The M2000s honestly look like they're the same price that I was pricing the K2200s at when I originally thought this whole thing up. But the M2000s are going to be a better value. I was actually going to do a separate review video on those, but I just kind of on the fly decided let's test all of them. So I think we've got a lot of really good answers here. You see what the difference is. $45, $44, somewhere in there is around the price points that you'd be looking at. Of course, description, all of these things linked below. Going to be doing a write-up on the low end. So do make sure to check out digitalspaceport.com. Also, that's where you're going to get your guide that's got the copy pastas friendly. So you can get your LXC container, everything running super smoothly for your setup. And I did see a couple of people were commenting that they had issues with a little thing here or there. I'm going to try to get those into the next video so that I can, whatever I fix or whatever needs to be fixed, if something needs to be fixed, I can get those things addressed. And we will get you guys set up on a high availability so you can have an always on system. This will also be applicable to you even if you just have one system, but having a good always on locally hosted AI that is always literally on is something that will vastly improve your experience with, using AI. And you've got to have a good experience. If you don't have a good experience with it, you're going to get burned out and be like, oh, I got to go remember to turn it on. As soon as you start thinking that, you've got to get yourself an always on system. We actually in this household fought for that with like about a week. And then I was like, dude, I got like a data center. Like, why am I turning computers on and off randomly? Just put it on one of these. So everybody, I hope you've had a good time learning along with me here, the performance differences. So once again, CPU, quad core, i5, 6500, 3.4, 3.5 gigahertz, and DDR4 2400 speed RAM. It was running right about 5-6 tokens per second. As soon as we upgraded to the K2200s, it wasn't much of an upgrade. You only were hitting about 7 tokens per second. M2000s, same price as the K2200s. You were actually, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be the same. Hitting about 11 tokens per second. P2000s, you're seeing a massive speed up. You're looking at something in the neighborhood of 20 tokens per second on the MiniCPM. So that is with 10 gigabytes of VRAM. So these things you may factor in, but yeah, right now idling at 22 watts. So that's not bad. Of course, when it is running, it peaks up there in the 60s to 80s, but idling down at 22 watts, not that bad at all. Look forward to reading you guys' comments and following along with your journeys in the comments below. Also, make sure while you're down there to hit the like and subscribe. I am motivated by reading what you say, and every time you hit that like and subscribe and drop a comment, makes me want to make that next video even faster. Everybody have a great one. Check you next time.